Hi folks, I'm Pari. I work as a product manager at a SaaS company. I've been working in product management for the last 8 years across 4 different companies. What I want to talk about today is what a PM does in a very simple way. So, to understand what a PM does, let's zoom out a little. Instead of looking at a day in the life of a PM, let's look at a year in the life of a PM. Over the course of the year, how most businesses operate is in quarterly cycles. And if you're working at a typical SaaS company, you can expect to see at least 1 or 2 major launch moments. This is an event where a company puts forward the best of their features and showcases all the great work that their teams have been doing in addressing customer needs and making their products better. Now, let's assume you're working on a team at one of these companies and your team is preparing to launch something in this part of the year. How you typically start is by thinking about what is the thing that your team should build. The next question you'll want to answer is how should it work? How should it look? This is where your design and engineering partners will start chipping in. The step after that is to put all the answers you find in a requirement doc, also known as a PRD. Then you'll let your engineers work their magic and build the thing. At this point, you will want to be around to help the team make trade-offs. You might need to clarify requirements or unblock the team if they're stuck. Next, you'll want to test the thing and make sure that it's ready to put in front of users. Then you get to tell everyone about the thing. And once everyone knows, you will then start observing people using or not using the thing and making a decision on what's next for this thing based on the data that you've seen. So that's what developing a typical customer-facing feature could look like. With each of the circles here, the size of the circle represents how much you will be involved or driving a particular part of the feature. The larger circles indicate things that usually the product manager is responsible for, and the smaller circles show things where you have to be present for and be collaborating with your team for, but not necessarily be the one driving the work. Now, if you were to build features one after the other, life would be pretty simple, right? You have busy periods, then you have maybe some downtime, then you have a busy period again. But how it typically works is once you've removed a lot of the ambiguity for what needs to be built, you move on to working on the next project or the next feature, and then the one after that, until your year starts looking a little bit like this. Now, if you were to try to zoom into a single day and see what's going on, you will notice that for one project, because you're ready to launch it, you might be working on things like internal announcements, reviewing marketing activities, creating some customer demos, and monitoring usage. For another project, you might be reviewing designs and providing feedback to your designer. You might be helping your engineers figure out which questions they need to answer as part of some technical investigation. You might still be working through clarifying the requirements for the next feature, and you might be sharing progress with other stakeholders. For a project that's somewhere in between, you might be responding to questions about expected functionality, helping your engineers make trade-off decisions, or communicating to other teams about a recently discovered dependency. So when you start to look at this as a day or a week's worth of work, you start noticing that, oh, it does look like you're doing a lot of random things, but now you know why that's the case. This is just a sample of the kind of activities that you would be doing. There's definitely more that I haven't covered here. One thing I do want to mention is not all types of features or projects are the same. A typical feature might look like this, but your team might be working on something that's more of an internal feature or a technical project to upgrade the backend services and maybe don't even need a UI. So those can be much smaller in size. So a part of your role is also going to be able to sequence a good mix of projects where you're working on customer facing stuff as well as addressing any technical needs that arise and making sure the work lines up in a way where your team's capacity is utilized with maximum efficiency. So let's talk about what maximizing this potential might look like. Again, looking at a typical feature, that's what it looks like. And you might choose to start the next feature after the first one is completed. One way to improve work is to sequence things more tightly together. So as soon as something is coming to the end, you start the next thing. The other way to do this is when work starts in parallel, instead of starting it a little bit later down the line, you pull that up to make the cycles even shorter. So then your days get busier and you have more overlapping activities, but that also means you can get more done. This is something that I've noticed PMs usually develop with time. So at the start, things will be paced out and a little bit slower, but as you grow your domain knowledge and your work practices and rituals in your company and your team, you are definitely able to do more simultaneously. Now, one thing to notice about the sequencing and parallelization of work is that if you look at the development time of your engineers, where you want to land is to make sure they're able to continuously work on the highest impact stuff. Thank you all for watching. Hope you learned something new, and I'd love to hear your feedback. What resonated, what else you'd like to hear more about, and anything else. Cheers.